Good morning, people. Well, I guess when you watch this, it might not be morning. But it is currently morning when I am making this video. So I was just talking to one of my friends. You know who you are. And I'm not going to lie. It's adorable. Okay, so lately I've been reading the Bible. And it's a new thing for me since I started following. And the more I read it, the more it blows my mind. And I can't believe the things that are in it. And I'm like, wait a second, all of these Christians are saying things and doing things like this. That's not what's in the Bible. And I'm like, what's going on? And so through my journey of realizing that somewhere in the last generations, there has become a gap in Bible knowledge and what is being taught and acted in the church. And this gap is extremely significant. And as Christians, it should not be tolerated. So I have been challenging and encouraging people to read the Bible, especially people who hate hypocritical Christians and think that that's what Christianity is. Because I was one of those people for a long time, for many, many years. Didn't want to go to church, didn't want to read didn't want anything, because I saw Christians and I'm like, I don't want any part of that. They're yucky. And now that I'm reading the Bible myself, Christians, a lot of the Christians are still yucky, and I realize that they don't even know it because they've never really read the Bible themselves. And if they do, then I really don't understand. That's what confuses me, is the people that are reading the Bible every day and think they're okay and don't want to hear that they're not. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about encouraging people to read the Bible. That way we can see our own problems and we don't feel called out by someone else, and we're not mad at our friends when they say it and we're like, no, that's not true. So reading the Bible is so important. And so I've been encouraging people to do it. I'm like, dude, you got to read this book. I'm like, this book got all the answers. I'm like, I never knew it had this in it. Have you read it? Have you read what's in this thing? It says, so many things. And I'm like, you have no idea. And people are like, oh, I tried to read it. And I'm like, you must not have read the right parts. I'm like, because this book good, man. This book real good. It blow my mind. Every time I read it, I'm like, wait, Mama Trixie say, what? And I'm like, I'll have to put all my stuff down. I'll read my book, and I open it up because I like to listen to it. But I get distracted a lot. But I can't sit and read it for very long either, because I can't sit still for very long. So I listen to it, and then the Holy Spirit would be like, hey, did you hear that? And I'm like, wait, what? And I listen, and then I pull out the book, and I'm like, and I'm always like, whoa. And this book is crazy, man. This book is crazy. I heard this one YouTube guy. He talked about just leaving it on in the car because he's a driver. So he I don't remember if it was trucks or whatever, but he leaves it out in the car and he'll just listen to it. And he said he can just go through books and books of the Bible. And I'm like, what? We're allowed to do that? And that was a pivotal point in my, and when I started listening to it, that's what really started helping me be able to understand the overall concepts and teachings and idea of the Bible. Not just these hyper-specific stories. So through encouraging people to read the Bible and getting people stoked up about it, I have had the absolute blessing of God letting me see two very dear friends purchase a Bible and start to try to read it. And then they're coming to me. And I'm like, oh crap, I need more Bible knowledge. I'm like, they're asking me questions. And they're like, what version should I get? And then they're asking, like, and I never thought about this because, like, I grew up around the Bible. So, like, I didn't think about this, really. They want to start at the beginning of the Bible and read it. Which, if you don't know the Bible and you don't know what's going on, it makes sense because it's a book and you start at the beginning of the books. But if you know the Bible's like opposite. And that's the weird thing. Like, so many things are opposite than what you think. But like, it's Alice in Wonderland. That's my new favorite movie that I use as an analogy for life all the time. It's upside down. It's backwards. It's eat this and grow, drink this and strength. Like, you gotta know life isn't what you thought it was. Because if you don't know that and you aren't willing to accept that, for real, like, you gotta be legit willing to, like, change everything you've believed. Because something's gonna come up, multiple somethings, and it's gonna blow your universe. And it's gonna be the most amazing thing. But you gotta be willing to change. And so, it makes, sorry, I get squirrel. But anyway, so version. So we'll start with that question first. Version of the Bible. Sorry, the cat's chasing bugs. They're being cute. Version of the Bible. Version of the Bible kind of really depends. I don't want to say this in a mean way, but I also don't know a nice way to say this. So I'm sorry if I'm not politically correct or acceptable. It kind of depends on your intelligence level and your knowledge base on Christianity overall. It also depends on your grasp of the human language and older human language and English styles. And it depends on your reading ability, if you have dyslexia, how long you can sit still, how well you read. Do you enjoy reading? Do you enjoy reading harder things that engage your mind? Do you enjoy simpler things to get kind of more a big picture? And then, so like translation and version are really tricky. So my input and take on that, if you already know the basic rules, guidelines, whatever of the Bible, like you've been around it, you know enough to question when something doesn't sit right, when something doesn't quite feel right. Then, if you have a little bit of that, I would say you could go with an easier version. I like listening to the New Living Translation, but that translation's got some weird words that can really change the meaning of almost like a whole chapter or a whole concept. Just because, like, if you're into semantics, don't listen to the New Living Translation unless you're willing to catch those discrepancies and then cross-reference to the original Greek, Hebrew, Arabic, or a different translation. I usually, when I catch the discrepancy, I usually just go back to the original. That way I understand, I'm like, I'm not going to go to this translation and then be like, oh, I still don't know if I trust it. And so then, I'm just going to go back to the original. Check it out. That's what the internet's for. It's amazing. It's easy. But I like listening to the New Living Translation. It's super simple, like plain, more modern English, but like I said, it can translate some words into, you gotta watch it. You can't just take everything that one says literally. But I really do, that's one I really enjoy listening to help me understand it, big things, easier. If I'm looking for like more hyper-specific details, I go with like King James. I grew up on New American Standard. It's a little bit more technical. Not as technical as the King James. The King James has a lot of the these and thous, and some people like that, you know. Nothing wrong with it. The King James has a lot more of a literal translation from the original. One thing I learned, I know a lot of people are uneasy with different translations because they feel like something's going to get lost. When I was doing some studying on Hebrew, the Hebrew language, one thing they were allowed to do, and now I don't know for sure if they did this with the Bible. I'm not quite sure how it works, because I also know they counted the, like, Hebrew letters all have numbers that they're equal. So when they were translating the Bible originally, they would translate, like, and copy the manuscripts and translate. They would, in the Hebrew, they would count the letters to make sure at the end of every page they added up to the same number to make sure it was an accurate translation. But one thing that they do in Hebrew is they don't always translate word for word, because the Hebrew language isn't word for word. The Hebrew language is very contextual, and it can vary based on the context. So you have to know, okay, in this context, how do they usually translate this word? Because this word can have 50 different meanings maybe, but in the context of this sentence, they always mean this. And so you have to have a deeper understanding, a deeper knowledge of some of these things when you're looking at the different translations, because one of the things that they were allowed to do in Hebrew translations is if they copied the same concept, the same moral, but they switched some of the words, it didn't matter, because, like, the principle of the matter. And that's a lot what I realized is Jesus is about the principle of the matter. The Old Testament is about the law. Jesus is about the heart, the principle of the matter. And we learn that it's about that the more we read the Bible. We learn how much God, like, man sees what we do on the outside, but God sees the heart. God weighs our heart. God softens our heart. God gives us a heart of flesh. You know, God is doing all this stuff to our heart to make it soft. But, sorry, I got off on another ramble, and I lost myself for a second. So, translation, concept. So it really comes down to semantics a lot of times if you're looking for concepts. So if you're looking for, if you don't know much and you don't want to get lost in something by accident, do something more close to the original. King James, New American Standard, NIV is pretty good for semantics and staying pretty close to the original. English, the ESV, English Standard Version. I don't know a lot about that. I haven't heard anything bad from what I've heard. It's more like King James style. I think it's a little bit more intense than New American Standard. But so that's a little bit on translations, how they work, how I use them. I use a Bible app for the most part. Then I listen to it in New Living Translation. And then the Bible app that I have, I think it's Holy Bible, but you can switch to any, like, there's a million different translations in there. So, like, then if I hear something and I'm like, wait a second, I don't understand, I can switch to a bunch of different translations, listen to it, paraphrase different ways. I can look at the original Greek and Hebrew, you know, it's all right there. It's super accessible. I can highlight with the app. The app remembers all my highlighted verses, so I can search through my highlighted verses, so come back to it later. Like, the app has a lot of amazing features, and it will read to you. The different translations are read by different people, so, like, different voices. That was interesting to figure out. And then where to start. how I read ADHD style, which basically means I wanted to know about something. Okay? I wanted to learn about something. So say that the first thing I wanted to learn was who Jesus was. Because I'm like, okay, if this whole thing is pivotal around believing this man and his message, then I need to actually listen to what he said, his words. I don't want to listen to what anyone else said about him. Because we know people lie. We know people exaggerate. We know people don't have the full story. So I wanted to listen to what Jesus said himself and take him for his word. So I started in the Gospels. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John in the New Testament, near the end of the Bible, the last little section. So the Old Testament's in the beginning. That's the history before Jesus came. It's the history of humans trying to fulfill the law. And history is an example of how humans cannot fulfill the law. No matter how hard they try, no matter how much they want to, no matter how good their heart is, humans by themselves cannot do it. That was the Old Testament. Okay, we got that figured out. Now here comes along Jesus. He gonna change the whole world because he is not only man, he is man and God. And he is able to live a sinless life because he's God. And God is without sin. And so then he died, rose again, because he's God and he created life. So like he can overcome it. It ain't nothing for him. And then he's like, dude, I love all y'all. Go tell everyone I love all y'all. And I just want to hang out with you. And like that's been the whole point this whole time, is like that I love you and I want to hang out with you. And now go tell everyone. That way when you die, we can all hang out because I love you. And so then the book of Acts comes along, and I don't know, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what I thought the book of Acts was when I was little, but like when I was listening to it, the reader said the Acts of the Apostles. And I'm like, oh, the Acts. Like things that you do. Like they acted out. Like it's the book of Acts. It's the things they did. The things the apostles did after Jesus left. The examples they set and how the church is supposed to look. How people are supposed to behave. Then comes the letters to the churches, teaching them further instructions about the little details, about situations and things like that. And then, so then one thing leads to another. So then so I was reading, and then this thing would be like, wait, but what about this? And then I go on Google and I ask Google, or I'm not going to lie, I use ChatGPT a lot because it can cross-reference the Bible lickety-split. And it's way more user-friendly to me than Google is because it's like a one-on-one. And now it can remember things. And so that is really creepy and helpful at the same time. And so I use ChatGPT a lot, and I'll ask it, hey, if you cross-reference the Bible, where does it talk about, whatever story I heard, whatever verse I heard, whatever concept? I'm like, where else does it talk about this? And then it'll give me a big list of Bible verses, and I can go and look, and then I can look at the chapters and like whatever. And the books, and then I'll have to read, I'm very big into context. Because especially with how complicated the Bible is, you have to understand the context. Context is super, super important. You want everyone to know the context around why you did what you did, especially when things are fluky and turned out a little haywire. You're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I did the best I could. You need to know the context. The Bible is the same way. The way people act, the way they behave, the reasons they said the things they said. Look at the context. And that's one thing, if you're listening, if you're reading, and something hits you and you're like, I don't know about that. Look at the context. See why you feel that way. Then ask yourself, look at yourself. Do I feel that way because I'm doing that and I don't want to be called out? Do I feel that way because this translation's a little off and it conveyed the idea not quite properly? Do I feel ask yourself these questions. Get yourself thinking. Ask the Lord to open you up and make you open to the truth. Ask him to show you the truth. Ask him to help it, reveal it to you, and to lead you and guide you in your reading. So, do I read the Bible straight through? No. I read ADHD style. Do I read the Bible straight through? Yes. It is one of the things I am doing. That's just not how the main way I do it. Because I spend different times doing different things. Part of my time I spend reading straight through. So I'll read like maybe a chapter, maybe a verse, maybe something. But like I'm reading straight through. I think I've gotten to like Psalms or Proverbs. Something like that. I'm around there. But then I also do reading everywhere because different things are important to me right now in this context of my life. The whole thing's important. But at this very moment, God can lead me to a scripture that is going to help me now. And I don't want to be limited. I don't want to limit my help because I'm reading straight through. And no, I have to read straight through before I read the rest of it because that's not how the Bible works. And God can speak to you from anywhere out of the Bible at any time. It's amazing. It's living and active. Like God got skill, yo. Like, you don't believe me? Ask him to show you. But so yeah. So I hope that helps someone. Reading the Bible isn't something that has to be done a certain way. That's the beauty of it. It can be read however you want, in whatever order you want, for however long you want. You can listen to it. You can watch a movie. You can read it. Like, the message is true no matter how it's received. Because it's the truth. And the truth doesn't change. So I would highly encourage you, read the Bible. Don't limit yourself. Don't feel bad because you're reading it different than most people. Don't feel bad because you read it different than yourself. Don't feel like, oh, I've always read it this way, I can't change now. You can teach an old dog new tricks. I read the Bible differently, different days, different time. You know, like, I like to switch it up. Because it all works. It's all true. So it doesn't matter. And then it keeps me interested. I don't get bored. Because if I get bored with it, I'm going to want to put it down. And I don't want to put it down because it keeps changing my life. So don't get stuck doing it the same way. Be willing to change. Be willing to grow. Just because something worked for you in the past doesn't mean it's going to work for you forever. If you've grown as a person, the tricks that worked for you in the past might not work for you anymore. You might have to learn new tricks. Life is about growing continually and not getting comfortable where we are. Stay uncomfortable. Love you guys. You got this. But better yet, he's got this. And he's got you. Have a great day.